We're PTK!
Thanks for watching. This is our HIA project to raise awareness for homelessness.
Hi, my name is Olivia Greeno, and today we interviewed Michael Estes.
My name is Olivia. I just need to hear a little bit about you, where you're from. If at any point you're uncomfortable in this, just let me know. We don't have to continue. If you will, speak to the camera as best you can because it doesn't pick up sound that well, and we can get started.
Sounds good. So from the top, I guess, my name is Michael Estes. I was born in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I lived in the county line of George County and Jackson for most of my life. And I went to school at East Central. It was pretty rough. Did not do so well in school. Except I was really passionate about theater, and that was pretty much the only reason I went to school. And a large, pretty traumatic series of events happened. It involved a female, and I ended up committing suicide or attempting so when I was a sophomore. And I had to do a week stint in Brentwood, which is a mental institution in Brentwood in Jackson, Mississippi. And come back, told myself I wasn't going to go back, ended up going back, and it still didn't get any better. So senior year, I just dropped out and was originally going to go to trade school. That fell through, and I eventually, the whole time during that span of time, I was dabbling in drugs. Ended up getting a lot worse over time, started selling drugs, started doing everything, pretty much what you're not supposed to do, I did it. As far as the drug history goes, I've done everything you can possibly think of. I never used a needle, but thankful for that, but if you can think of it, I've probably done it. After high school, I was in and out of my parents' house. I didn't really want to burden them with what I was going on because I knew I was an addict, but I didn't really want to stay there, so I couch hopped for a lot of the time, going between buddy's house to buddy's house, and eventually that up to the point where I caught a charge and I ended up doing some time in the county, ended up getting put on drug court, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. A lot of people talk really bad about it, but it changed my life for sure. And when that happened, I got put on drug court, went to rehab one time, come home, was home for maybe about a month, didn't do well, ended up going back to jail, and was pretty much in and out of that whole thing for my first 2 years on drug court. Ended up going to like 3 rehabs. This program or place they could send me, they sent me there. I did 6 months in prison behind it. And I'd come home after that, and that was really my eye-opening point in my life. Was I had turned 21 in jail, turned 20 in jail. And my birthday cake was an amalgamation of just bread and stuff they threw together, and it was probably one of the worst birthday cakes I've ever had in my life. Right before my 22nd birthday, I'd come home on like September 8th, and I told myself things were going to be different, and on my birthday, I overdosed on fentanyl, and I was clinically dead twice. The really irony part of the story is that my cousin, he first started on the Moss Point Police Department within that first week, and one of his first calls to respond to me overdosing. And so I was trying to hide it from my mom and my job and everyone. I told him I had a heat stroke, and my cousin, because he was on the force, told my mom what had happened. And I'd just come home from prison, so I was scared to death to tell my case manager on my probation because I was like, they're just going to send me to prison and this is it. I talked to my mom because I know she was really glad that I was home, and she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, I think I'm going to have to tell my case manager. She goes, that sounds like something a man would do. And that always stuck with me, that moment right there. And so reluctantly, I texted my case manager and I told her, I was like, hey, overdosed yesterday. I'm sure you already know. I just wanted to tell you before you found out. I don't want you to think I'm trying to run or anything. And she texted me the next day, told me to turn myself in. And then I went to my final rehab where I spent 6 to 7 months there. And that was probably the best place I've ever been. That was the moment, that stint was the moment where I grew up. A lot of good people there helped me. I went through a really intense trauma therapy, a lot of counseling, a lot of things I needed that I didn't have access to without drug court funding it and all that stuff. I'd come home and went to a sober living house in Pascagoula, Mississippi called Stillwater. And I was there for about 5 months, give or take, and it got to the point where I'd gotten a job, I'd gotten stable, I'd gotten a car, and I'd gotten everything that I didn't necessarily have before, but I couldn't save any money whatsoever. I went back to my parents' house, but it wasn't an ideal living situation. My parents are great parents, love them to death, they're great people, but you know, everyone has their vices, and they had theirs.
I thought it'd be best for me to separate, so I went to a friend of mine's house who was also sober, doing really well in life, and crashed on his couch. And that was when drug court put me into contact with community care and told me that if I needed a stable living situation, so I wasn't couch hopping, I needed an address because of my probation, obviously. And yeah, I didn't take them long at all. I think I applied my first week, and within the next week I was moving into my apartment. And it was the first time I'd ever had any sort of self-responsibility in my life. I had my own place, my own car, everything but it was falling on me. And it was pretty overwhelming at first, big change in life, but it pretty quickly got pretty comfortable for me. And other than that, that's pretty much it. I'm still there to this day. I'm still under community care, obviously, and still got a good job, still got my car. But I'm 2 years off drugs, and I pick up my 1 year sober coin off everything, actually, like in 4 days or so. Yeah, my life's pretty much changed. As good as it could possibly have changed, it changed. And there's a lot of moving powers with that one, but one of them is definitely community care.
So you said that you were but you've moved into an apartment. What do you think was the hardest part about transitioning from couch hopping and being on your own to being in an apartment?
Honestly, probably the loneliness. That was the biggest thing, because I went from being surrounded by people, whether or not they had my best interest at heart or not, it was still a human interaction. And when I moved into my apartment, especially since I'd actually committed to changing my life, my catalog of friends weren't really all there. So I really didn't have anybody as far as friends go, especially since everyone's living their own lives now, the ones that did get better. You know, life happens, and I didn't really have anyone that would come in and out. Or the silence was really overwhelming, but it quickly was like, this is what peace is. This is what that is. There's no chaos, there's no extra stuff going on, it's just me and my life. That was probably one of the best feelings, that transition from loneliness to just peace.
And then what was your biggest motivation while you were couch hopping to keep you going?
My biggest motivation, it changed over time, but I guess the constant steady was especially when I was still using, was that I knew I was an addict, and I knew that was going to play. Even if I did somehow get my own place, somehow got on my own feet, I still didn't get the help I needed. So I was still an addict at heart, and it probably wouldn't taken long for me to end up selling whatever it was I had just to go get high or something. So the fact that I knew I needed help and was actually in a position to get it and change for the better, it kept me going on that. You know, probation definitely helps too. So
What stigmas do you think surround people who are homeless?
I think most people, when they see homeless, they just think of, your average stuck on their corner, just doing drugs, just sleeping on the side of the road, which that is a form of homeless, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think there's a lot of different forms of homelessness. Like, there's people who aren't technically homeless, but they have a place to go, but it's not a good environment, and that won't affect their life or what they're trying to move for themselves for the better. It's almost like an anchor. Like, I feel like at certain points, some of the houses I was going to, I feel like I'd have done better on my own on the street than I would have gone to their sleeping on their couch, because the surroundings was just further hindering my progress of going forward through life. And even, hell, I've been on the street too. I've had that period of time where I was just, granted it was pretty brief, but I had that point in time, and that solitude, that realizing that you've really fallen this far, that you are on the side of the road right now, and you could call somebody, but what good would that do when you're sitting there and you just realize, wow, I was in class, I had scholarships, I had everything, and then the series of events that took part, you really just threw that away, and now you're on the street, all for drugs and a significant other. A lot of eye-opening experiences, but a lot of the ones that I couldn't capitalize on because of my foggy mind at the time.
And one of our main goals, we have two goals, is to break the stigma down around people who are homeless, and then another one is to find help. So what would your advice be to someone who is seeking help and who is currently homeless?
There's a lot of places a lot of people don't know about. You just got to go ask. Like, a lot of churches are plugged into the whole scene. They could point you in the direction, because there was a lot of programs I didn't even know about until I got put on drill court, like the Open Doors program, community care program, just to name a couple. Community care, opiate grants, the whole nine. I've went through it, and yeah, it wouldn't definitely helped a lot.
And then you said you didn't go through Open Doors, you went through community?
Yeah, I went through a community care network.
Okay. How did you find out about that program?
It was actually my aftercare provider for my drug court, which aftercare is pretty much just a group therapy session, for lack of a better term. And that man, he told me, he was like, hey, I've been in touch with some people through the, it was the adolescent drug court, he also works with that. He was in touch with them. And I guess I don't know if he learned it through Open Doors or if he just learned it through the grapevine, someone that he works with, and he told me about it, and he was like, this is something you might want to think about. And I was like, there's nothing to think about, I'll apply for it, where's the paperwork? So I signed up for it, and yeah, within the next week, they had approved me, looked for an apartment. That following week, I was moving in. It was really convenient too, because it's right around the block from where I work at, so it was in town with my probation and everything, so it was all really right there, and I couldn't ask for a better opportunity at that point.
And finally, how long did it take for you to find and obtain housing?
Once I found out about the program, like I said, about 2 weeks, I was in the house. But not knowing what my assets were that I could access, it took me a while to even know about it. But once, like I said, yeah, once I found out about it, it didn't take long at all, 2 weeks max.
All right.
Do you have anything to add? Do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
Okay.